Hey friends, Power Guy Rob Phoenix here. Hope you're all doing well. Um, I wanted to come talk to you guys about a type of folk magic that many people are familiar with. It crosses traditional lines, and even in a lot of instances, religious lines, and that's using psalms in your folk magic practice. Um, the way you use a psalm within your folk tradition depends on what your tradition is. Like, for example, just a general Christian person might just sit and pray the psalm, like read the psalm out loud while, with the intention of sending that blessing to someone for a specific need. Um, in powwow, we are more likely to hand copy the psalm onto a piece of paper, fold it and tuck it into something to give to that person to carry to manifest that specific issue. Um, there are other traditions that might very well burn specific candles and maybe use oils and involve like a saint that's appropriate to the need while citing the psalm. Um, you can also, depending on the need, wait for the correct day of the week, the correct moon phase, the correct planetary hour, maybe create a talisman or something while reciting the psalm. So you can see that it can go from the most basic of just reading it and writing it all the way up to pretty intensive ceremonial ritualized forms of magic. But the common denominator there is that we're all working with the same psalms. Um, so I thought I would pick a couple like common things that people might want to like work magic for, or seek a powwow for, or hoodoo, or whatever. Um, and tell you the psalm number. So if you want to write these down, I'm going to do about 10 different psalms. I'm not going to read the psalms out loud. I'm just going to tell you the number. Now, this is, well, yeah, just get a paper and pen. And if you just want to jot these down. So the first thing I want to talk about is protection for pregnant women, to protect from premature delivery or something dangerous or bad happening to the child or the mother during childbirth. I think prayers and magics like this are important, more so. I mean, more so now because there are so many rights of women being taken away from them when it comes to childbirth and such, reproductive freedoms and such. And so, in this climate of going backwards and taking things away from women, it's important that we know that there are at least some psalms that we can use to uh, help them out during their time of need. So you want to write this down. Psalm 1 is kind of like an all-purpose psalm. Basically, Psalm 1 is like for somebody to recite that for whatever they need. They've done nothing wrong in this situation, so they really need God to back them up. But it's Psalm 1 can be used to aid women who are suffering during a difficult childbirth to get the care that they need. But also Psalm 19, Psalm 33, Psalm 126, and Psalm 128. So there are a couple options there. And again, do the work as your tradition teaches you to do it, whether you're using candles or you're throwing herbs in there somehow or burning something or mixing something or whatever, or you're just like, or a more simplistic tradition like powwow, we would just hand copy it on paper while thinking of that person, fold it up, put it in a brown bag, or even just put the paper tucked inside to a garment that they're wearing. Um, whatever you choose to do. So that's for women, pregnant women. Here's a psalm to protect against evil persons conspiring against you. And that's Psalm 7. All right, so you should write that down. So for evil, to protect against evil persons that are conspiring against you, Psalm 7. To protect yourself from misfortune while traveling. This is a good one too, because like my job does require some travel on occasion. Um, but it's also good, you know, if you're out with your family just on day trips or whatever, going to festivals or whatever, or going shopping, you know, you want a little protection. So to protect yourself from misfortune when traveling, it's Psalm 22. Um, Here's one that I think it's important. This is actually two different Psalms. To protect yourself from floods. Now, this is important too, because we see with changes in climate and such, it's bringing more severe weather. And just like we saw, like along the East Coast, all that terrible flooding. So Psalms 24 and 25 can be used to help, or at least give someone a blessing who's going through that. Okay. Um, excuse me, I'm very dry today. Um, Here's protection from wild beasts, ghosts, and evil spirits. Is Psalm 90. And Psalm 91, a lot of people know, is to repel evil spirits, demons, and protect yourself from all kinds of distress and suffering. This is considered one of the most powerful of the Psalms for protection against evil. So 90 will protect against wild beast, ghost, and evil spirits, and 91 protects against pretty much everything. And on top of that, to destroy a demon or an evil spirit is Psalm 104. If you have to pause this and write it down or whatever, go ahead. And also, I just want to say there are many sources out there that give you like the uses of the Psalms. Some may differ from what I use here. So I'm going to put a link to the list that I found that I like the best. There are many reasons why I like this list the best, but the main one is that this seems to mesh well with how I've used the Psalms, and they seem to work well. Here's kind of an interesting one. This is for people who like to do stuff other than just reciting a charm or a psalm or whatever. So this one is for a vicious enemy, like to make somebody go away. Pray this psalm for 3 days over an open jug of wine, and then pour the wine at your enemy's doorstep, being very careful not to spill any on yourself. That's Psalm 109. So again, that's for a vicious enemy. Pray the psalm for 3 days over an open jug of wine, and then pour the wine at your enemy's doorstep, being very careful not to spill any on yourself. Interesting. Here's one. If you have to enter the territory of your enemies, fill your hands with salt, then scatter it to the four corners of the earth while reciting Psalm 125. I like that. It gives you like like something to do, makes you feel like you're doing some kind of almost like a spell or something. So if you have to enter the enemy of your territories, fill your hands with salt and scatter it to the four corners of the earth while reciting Psalm 125. Here's a psalm. Recite this psalm to increase and preserve love between married couples. Again, now the instructions here say to recite it. So I would think that would be more effective than writing it down on paper. Recite this psalm to increase and preserve love between married couples. That's Psalm 139. And finally, here is a psalm if you are troubled by ghosts. This will banish the ghost. Say Psalms 145, 144, and 145. And that banishes ghosts. I really like that, especially if we're in a spooky time of year. You never know what's coming around, floating around and such. So anyway, that's I'll put a link down underneath to the list that I was reading from. And there you go. You might have other lists than mine that have different uses for it. That's okay too. There's no right or wrong list to use. This is just the one I like. But you could conceivably make your entire folk magic practice the use of the Psalms. There's literally a use for everything. So however you choose to do that, whether it's just reading them whether it's just saying them and kind of focusing on your intent, whether it's writing them on paper, whether it's burning candles with it, whether it's incorporating planetary hours and moon phases, or powders and herbs and oils and incenses. That's up to you. That's the Psalms still do their thing, no matter what. So my only I don't know. The only last thing I would say about it would be don't change the Psalms. Don't rewrite them. These were written about between like 9 and 500 years prior to the birth of Christ. So they have been carrying that power for a long, long time. And we've been using them for centuries and centuries and centuries, as sort of a magical tool. And people have had nothing but praise for them. And it's even gone into like non-Christian or Jewish traditions where they use them as well because they are effective. So that's my little blurb about using the Psalms. Try them for yourself and do it the way you want to do it, the way that feels the most comfortable to you. Like I said, in powwow, we keep it simple, but you don't need to be bound by that. So that's it. Hope that was helpful and interesting. And oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, I use the New International Version of the Bible. Everybody has their favorites. I like the New International Version just because it doesn't have all that weird flowery language that like people don't speak that way. All right, so that's it. Hope that was helpful. God bless you guys. Love you, and we'll